see your beautiful face.
Good to see you too. Thank you for having me on here. I'm so humbled by this whole experience and all the people that came in front of me. It's a little daunting, I will have to admit.
What?
Because it's so great, all the speakers.
You're great also. This is what I love about this space is it all of the speakers, I mean, I've had speakers who have been like, I'm terrified. What am I doing? What did I sign up for? So you are not the first person to be like, I'm nervous.
I'm not really nervous. I'm just humbled to be among this lovely group.
Well, you deserve it. I really appreciate your story, and I'm really excited for you to be able to share that to inspire others. So that's why I asked you to join. That's why I wanted you to be a part of this. So
thank you.
Yeah, no, it's and you'll notice too that everybody's super encouraging and just like welcoming, and we're a big fan. I say that we're a family here. That's why we're not promoting things, we're not selling, we're not, a business here. I want us to be a community and a family who comes together to encourage one another and just help each other up the mountain to thriving.
Absolutely.
So I'm so thrilled you're here. So
thank you.
Without further ado, everyone, I want you to meet my new friend. This is Dawson, and she is an author, a health life coach, she's an awesome dancer. You should go after this, go into the dance party, karaoke party post tab. You'll see her dancing. I need you to teach me some rhythm. I like to dance, but I need some work with the hips and
glad to help.
Awesome. Maybe we'll do a dance party together. I was actually talking to a friend about that last night. I think we should have a big
Let's do it. For sure.
Yes. She is from New Jersey, and she's got spunk, and I adore her. Her new project, this new journey she is on, she is calling it Detours to Destiny. And I love the picture of that because so often we think that our journey should be a straight path and that we need to have all our ducks in a row and go on the straight and narrow. And then if something happens and we detour, we're like, oh no. But I love that, right? It can so easily distract us and derail us from our destiny and from what it is we want. And we let the idea of failure creep in. And so I love that. Detours to Destiny. It is unbelievable. I'm so excited. Janet says good morning. She's
good
here.
Morning.
Good morning, Janet. Just, I like giving shout outs. So good morning, Janet. Good to see you. And anyone else here, let us know. But I'm going to hand it over to you now and bring us what you got, girl.
Okay. So first thing, when you were talking about the Detours to the Destiny, I have to give a shout out to Amy Purdy because that's where I got that from. And I thought it was like the story of my life, but she wrote it. She lived it. So anyway, welcome to my New Jersey kitchen, TV behind, etc. In this kitchen, things happened that were crazy, things that were going to determine what happened in my life, but I didn't know it at the time. I had a wonderful, interesting, fascinating life. I was writing novels. Sometime in my early 50s, I made this declaration. When I grow up, I want to write novels. I want them to be bestsellers and published. And I really did that. And I really wrote the books. And early on, in fact, one was my first book. I sent them out to New York publishing agencies, and they liked them. You do submission guidelines, and it was usually a chapter. And then they would ask for the whole book if they liked it. And they did. They liked it. And I had 4 books bouncing around, which you really shouldn't do. But I was new in the industry. And even one of my manuscripts had made its way somehow to a producer in LA. And he said, look, I'm really interested in this. Maybe we could, make this into something like a Slumdog Millionaire kind of thing. And I was really excited by that. I couldn't believe it that I had all these balls bouncing in the air. But, I'm thinking to myself, like, the industry is changing, and who's reading books anymore? I mean, I read books. I read Roget's Thesaurus, hard to say, because I'm a wordsmith. I love to write. So I sit in the bathtub and read books, but most people have gone to Kindle or something electronic now. So what I did was I just stayed in hope. But eventually all those projects were rejected. And, God knows what he's doing, because what happened after that, I wouldn't have been able to handle any of those projects. So when I get rejected, what do? I write another novel. Why? Well, it's my favorite thing to do, still is. To this day, I love writing, and I am a writer for a magazine in health and wellness because I want to keep my hands in the pot. But when you sit down and write a novel, right, it starts in your brain. And since I was a little girl, I have like these movies just, percolating in my brain. I used to have a lot of imaginary friends when I was a little girl. My mother was wondering, like, how do you make up their characteristics? Well, this is how. I guess this is what was part of my journey. So, when you're writing about a character, you're doing like a tapestry of their life. You get to describe their hair, what they smell like, if they get along with their mom, if they're fighting with their husband, if they have an unusual disease that they get in their late 50s as a woman. I gave one of my characters something like that. And you create them and you watch them bloom and develop. It's amazing. So that was my favorite thing. But on this day, as I'm trying to create this new tapestry, right, I'm noticing I don't really have the focus that I normally have. And I'm thinking to myself, I've had writer's block, but this is different. So I said, okay, you're tired. You're working long days, 8 to 12-hour days, sitting and writing. Shut the computer, go take a nap, take a bath, and go to bed early. Wake up and come back the next day. And I did just that. And I came back all excited, wanting to write this book because I thought it was really good. So I think they're all good because I create them, and some are and some aren't. But this one really had something. So the next day, with determination, I did the same thing. And I should tell you, I've written a novel on a weekend. Now, it wasn't one of my deep international intrigue. It wasn't my deep children at risk. It was a little bit fluffy, maybe partly a love story, but I banged it out in a weekend. So I was used to doing at least 5,000 words a day, and I wrote 2 sentences that were like a child wrote it. It wasn't L.A. Dawson's writing. I looked down there and I said, who wrote that? And it happened a lot, again and again and again. And about the 5th day, I got worried and I said, you know what, Houston, we have a problem. And I called the doctor. And they said they'd see me in a couple of days. And in that next couple of days, don't think I didn't sit down and try, because I really had determination with this. And I was frustrated because I couldn't work through it. And I walked into the doctor's office, and his daughter was on Broadway, and he knew I wrote novels. So we had this conversation. And I said to him, look, how's your daughter doing? Oh, she loves it. She enjoys what she's doing. He said, how are the novels going? Did you get published? I know you were close. And I said, funny you should ask that, because I'm having problems. I cannot get what's in my brain down to the paper. And he said to me, honey, and I'm like, yes. He said, did anything happen in your life that, could possibly make you react like this? And I said, well, it wasn't recent, but I did lose my mom a while back. And, he grabbed onto that fact, like manna from heaven. Okay, so you're depressed. You have some kind of mental stress going on now. You're suffering from anxiety. And I'm listening to him and I'm going, none of that feels right. And then he said, you're a woman of a certain age. Maybe it's menopause. He goes, yeah, I think menopause has something to do with it. I looked at him and I said, been there, done that, been around a lot of women with menopause, and they could write sentences as far as I know. So you know what? I was sick and didn't know it. Too sick to advocate for myself. And 2 years later, almost to the day of that appointment, I woke up from the clavicle bones upward, paralyzed from neurological Lyme disease. And what did that mean? It meant my eyes were paralyzed. They were paralyzed open. So I couldn't feel anything, and dirt and debris had gotten in them for days. I had multiple infections, had to use 6 eye drops, and when I went to bed at night, they had to be taped shut. I am claustrophobic, and that was torture. I couldn't speak, I couldn't swallow, and because I couldn't swallow, I couldn't eat. The food would get caught over here, and this, by the way, is the 7th nerve. Where you see my fingers is where my face was paralyzed, and then my throat was paralyzed. Initially, they just thought it was half the face, and it wasn't. It was a lot more than that. Now, this was bad, but I got better 4 months later. I was taking an antibiotic by mouth that worked right away, and I have a stellar immune system. Still do, even having had Lyme disease. And I was in what was called Lyme dormancy, which means if you have chronic Lyme, the Lyme is just sleeping and resting. It could come back, but it hasn't in all that time, thank you God. So that was a wonderful recovery. But I thought to myself, you take really good care of yourself, but now you have to take excellent care of yourself. And 4 months later, 4 months seems to be the magic number, as I got this wonderful, wonderful news from my editor. I walked up the stairs, up into my bedroom, because my dogs were in their crates and I wanted to give them a walk. And that morning, I had moved my treadmill up against the wall in my bedroom so that my dogs could lay in the bed while I exercised. Yeah, I'm a crazy dog lover. And I kind of forgot that the treadmill was there. And when I stepped into the room, my right foot got tangled underneath the side of the treadmill. And I was trying to disengage when a snow squall happened. Now, this was a February day in 2012. It was just about getting dark. I had a room darkener in the room that showed light. But when the snow squall came, it was thunder, lightning, blizzard, darkness. I lost my sensation of up and down. So when I lost my sensation of up and down, I somehow landed like laying next to the treadmill. And when I tried to get up, I used my core, and I was so strong, trying so hard, that I came up very, very quickly. And I hit the treadmill 3 times with my face. Now, if you can imagine that sound times a million and add the sound of bones shattering in your face, you can kind of understand what I experienced. I knew it was really, really bad. And the second time I hit the treadmill, I heard a voice that said, "Today's the day, you're going to die." And I stood up, held my face on, grabbed the side of the treadmill and said, "Jesus, God, angels, save me now, not my time and not my place." I imagined that my children were going to find me in a pool of my blood. And I started to smell my blood before I saw it. And then something caught my eye. There was a lot to the left of the treadmill, and it was glistening in my blood. And I reached down and grabbed it. And I want to show you what was floating in my blood. These are feathers still covered in my blood, and I will not wash them. There's symbolism there. And there was an angel there that saved me for a purpose. Now, you can't believe it, but 6 months later, after suffering on that treadmill accident, full body whiplash, 6 herniations, 3 in the neck, 3 in the back, injuries in every part of my body, my thumbs, my hands, my neck was the worst. I had a critical neck injury. But I was reconstructed in the face by this friend of mine who's a wonderful reconstructive surgeon. I call it renovated on my face. And I went down to Cape May, New Jersey, which is a beautiful beach town. And I sat at a tiki bar amongst vacationers drinking. I was drinking water and I was writing novels. And I continued to do that for 4 summers there and in between in my home. Now, it was a fabulous time. And I really made people think I was all better. And I really thought I was. I was doing physical therapy then. I'm doing physical therapy now. I would be doing it for the rest of my life, just like, working out with a trainer. You just got to take care of your body. But the setbacks started coming hard and fast. And during those setbacks, I had to go back just 8 months ago to do rehab on my eyeballs. Why? My eyeballs were really badly paralyzed, and it started doing this thing called nystagmus, which everybody has at their end view of vision. But if you get it suddenly, and I never had it, it means something could be up. My ophthalmologist sent me to the PT, and we rehabbed my eyeballs. When you rehab your eyeballs, you vomit, you cry, you get dizzy. We attempted this big rehab of my neck and my eyeballs 3 times. And I couldn't get through it because I had spent my whole time since this accident vomiting and dizzy and nauseous. And I had to get back to work some way, somehow. And it couldn't be stimulated from sitting. And about 1.5 years ago, I had a talk with myself. And I had 4 days of crying after that. And I said, I can't sit and write novels at the moment. It's too much for me. And a little over a year ago, I went back to school and I became a health and life coach because I said somebody could benefit from what happened to me. Somebody could learn that there's hope at the end of the tunnel and not to fall back into that lack of hope and giving up. And that was really my motive for becoming a health and life coach. Now, as far as detours making your destiny, I mean, this has been a big 8-year detour, but I'm going to tell you about some of the other detours that led up to that, because the detours in our life help us reframe our perspective, which makes our character, it's character building, right? And that's what I discovered as I thought, what are the detours that made my destiny beyond this 8-year journey? So the first one I want to tell you is a funny story about when I was 4 years old. There was a woods surrounding the house where I grew up. And my mom gave me a certain distance that I could be in, and she could see me. And I walked down into the woods, and there was a rat nursing her babies. And in my head, I don't know if I made this up or what, but I assessed she was having trouble nursing. So I grabbed the quilt off my mom and dad's bed, and I put her and her babies in my arms, and I sang a lullaby to them to try to help her calm down and nurse her babies. And my mother found me like that in the woods. And my family used to call me Lexi, and she's yelling at me and she's going, Lexi, what's the matter with you? That's a rodent, that's a rat, as she's pointing to the baby that's in my arms. And I said, just like this, oh no, mama, that's a big mousey. Well, 4 years old, and the perspective change was there. I'm not afraid of a big mousey. I might be afraid of a big rat that's a rodent once I learned what the word rodent meant. So that is where I noticed my perspective could change with understanding of the circumstances. The second thing I want to tell you about is when my dad was on his deathbed, he had about 7 weeks to live. He told my mother that he wanted to speak to me personally, and he sat me down and he said, Lexi, look, I have a confession to make. And I go, a confession? I go, okay, Daddy, say whatever you have to say. And he said to me, do you remember the field day at John Hill School where I came and I had a whole bunch of men with me? And I said, yes. I remembered very clearly because my dad owned a marina and worked 6 to 7 days a week. These men had hats on and they looked very official, but I thought, Dad's friends, this is cool. He's at my field day. And I was a broad jumper, a high jumper, and a runner, track and field. And he said to me, those men were from the Olympics and they'd been contacting us for the better part of a year. They wanted to take you. It was something like South Carolina or Georgia to train. And your mom and I said no. And that was hard to fathom. I'm like, really? Did that really happen? And he said, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I did that to you. And I said, well, what did you do to me? You were my parents. I was 10, 11, 12, something like that. What did you do to me? You did for me. You protected me. You thought that this was the life I should have. And that was my journey. And that is just another change in perspective. And you gave me something. You didn't take something away. Third story I want to tell you about is I have a small amount of Native American blood. And the Native American blood took me 15 years to find out what tribe I'm from. And when I was 10 years old, some friend of the family took me to a powwow. And at this powwow, a chief walks up to me from a distance, and he comes up to me and he holds me with his eyes. He holds me with his austereness and his presence. He is so mighty and powerful. You could just feel it. And even though I wasn't so much into the native blood as I was as I got older, I knew this was something special. And he looked at me and he said to me, "My daughter, one day you will know who you are. All the Native American blood in your family has come into you. And for one getting DNA done, I'm the only one that shows it. My son doesn't show it. By then it's watered down. And by the way, for some reason, I am told by the DNA people that the DNA is a little different in Native Americans and how it flows. So you could have a brother and sister, and one could be a higher percent than the other. So it's a little mysterious that way too." And then he said to me, "You know, you're like a medicine woman, and you will find this out later." Now, we all know the healer is God, but he gives certain people certain gifts for certain reasons, right? So here I am, a health and life coach. And trust me, I never wanted to do anything like that. So there's someone who is very intuitive, who is giving me a message, and I was too young to hear it. But looking back, I gained perspective. So the next thing I want to tell you about is I lost my brother at 51 in 1998, and my dad died 10 months later on my brother's birthday, who had just died. His birthday was in August. My dad died in August, and my mother died in August 10 years later. And when August comes around, you know, I'm not thinking specifically, oh, my family died in this month, but I'm feeling this heaviness in my heart, and it's inexplicable until it goes, oh, that's why. And then perspective, I said, "Thank you, God, that you only gave me 1 month to mourn, because they could have died or had birthdays in different months, and I could have had a whole year, and I only have 1 month." So to me, that was a blessing, and that was a change in perspective. Since the feathers that fell by the treadmill, feathers fall down upon my feet when I have a prayer answered. And I started to notice it. And I said, "God, is this your way of communicating to me?" Maybe it's because he made me native, and he made me part native. And he shows me feathers. And the feathers are just so exciting to see. And you should see the collection I have in my house. And for some reason, a lot of them are male blue jay feathers. So natives have animal totems that represent something. And initially, people thought I was a Lakota Indian, Lakota Sioux. And I didn't think that was true because nobody had ever lived there. But the Lakota find that the blue jays give the messages. And they used to fly around my head and drop their feathers. Long story short, when a prayer was answered, blue jay feathers fall on me. In fact, on the day I was starting this 8-month ago physical therapy that made me so sick but got me well, I heard 2 blue jays above me. I was walking 2 of my dogs, and they were fighting. And I said, "Oh, God, please, I know you want to give me some feathers to tell me that this is going to work, but please don't hurt the birds." And with that, about 8 to 10 feathers fell on me. The birds were okay. They flew off, a little bald, but they flew away, and I was blessed by their feathers. And this was a remarkable last 8 months, hard, but I was healed. And with those skills, I can go forward in my life without pain. Now, years ago, when I was in Skidmore College in Saratoga Springs, New York, I got a call in the middle of the night. And my mom said to me, "Get out of the dorm, there's going to be a fire." My mother was very intuitive. This is kind of common with this kind of DNA. And my friends knew how she was, and we all got out of the dorm. Well, it turned out to be another dorm. One person's life was lost. There were several other people that were very badly injured. And we all walked around with survivor's guilt. But I had a good group of friends, and we spoke together, and we realized that survivor's guilt was just, we were still there, and we had work to do. And so that was another, oh my gosh, this is a perspective. You could have been in that fire, and I wasn't, and it was a blessing. And it's just, again, looking at it and reframing it. At the Port Authority, in 1986, I was working in Manhattan. 1986, the Port Authority was a mess. It was the bus station. And I got home from those buses to my house in New Jersey. And there was a third floor bathroom that had a female police officer there. And that officer said, you know, I will be there on these hours and these hours. So I always went during those hours. And this day, I had to use the ladies' room and she wasn't there. There was someone in the bathroom. In retrospect, was suspicious. And when I came out of the stall, she threw me up against the wall, broke a bone in my foot, threw me into the handicapped stall where there was a 6'7" man crunching down on the handicapped toilet with a gun aimed at me and a gun across his chest. And that was scary enough, but they were both high on drugs. And he attacked me and he tried to rape me. And the night before on the news, they put a story on that there was a new breed of rapist in New York and AIDS was a big problem. And if you were attacked, tell the rapist, the attempted rapist, that you had AIDS. So I lied to this man and I said I had AIDS. And he left me alone. And that was a really close call because those guns were flying in my face and he was coming at me and this one was flying like this. And he told me to wait in the bathroom and they left and people were looking at me for the bus station and they came and they found me. Another scary thing, right? But perspective. I'm still here telling you about it. And the last thing I want to share with you is I helped facilitate saving a dog. It was a dachshund, a little male dachshund. My friend had just lost her male dachshund. She adopted him. This poor dachshund was a bait dog for fights. I mean, this tiny little animal. It was a horrible situation, but he got rescued. And the lady who facilitated it asked me and the lady who rescued the dog to come to her house. And she had other rescue dogs in her house. And there was this big white dog there that she called a wolf hybrid. Suspect, I think it was a real wolf. And I'll tell you why I say that. Bigger, more wild. Her first words were to me, my friends call me Alex for my middle name. And she goes, Alex, Shiloh bites. And my friend says, oh, you don't know her. You should see her with wild animals. She had seen me with some wild animals. If you go on a walk with me, you'll see me with wild animals. So Shiloh took a liking to me, and wolves do like me. If I go to any of those reserves and I'm near the fence, the wolf will walk with me up against the fence, looking at me the whole time. And I love the presence of wolves. They're another animal that just resonates with me. And this Shiloh backed me up against the wall, and there was this little tiny stage that they'd made with 2 steps for their grandchildren to perform. And Shiloh backed me up on the stage and got very close to me. And I'm thinking, oh, this wolf is like 6.5 to 7 feet, beautiful, stunning creature, but in my face, you know, right here. And the night before, I had seen Cesar Millan talking about what to do if you come face to face with a wolf hybrid or a wolf. And if a wolf gets really close to you and is very interested in you, they may want to invite you to their pack. Oh boy. So Shiloh did what Cesar Millan says. Shiloh jumped on my shoulders. Shiloh looked into my eyes. And you're always told, don't look in the eyes of a wild animal or a non-domesticated animal. But in this case, he said, look in the eyes of this animal. And I looked into the eyes, and then Cesar said, the wolf will lick your teeth. And then you are expected to lick the teeth of the wolf. And when she jumped on my shoulders and looked in my eyes, I said a big, huge prayer. Please, God, don't let me die. And please let me live to tell this story, because I know it's going to be an amazing perspective thing. She licked my teeth. I licked hers back. Yes, I did. I had to, because she was right there with her teeth in my face. And then she fell asleep. And she dropped down on me and slept on me for over 3 hours. And I was awake the whole time saying, this is like the most amazing thing I've ever experienced. And thank you for this community with this beautiful living creature that could have gone the other way. So, you know, what does all this mean? We all have a very vivid tapestry of life. And we all are warriors and spiritual warriors and fighters. And it doesn't have to be something so traumatic as this. Now, this little part, I just have to read. Okay, my life, my detours led me to a rat, to the possibility of the Olympics, a powwow, some funerals, some feathers that showed me that my prayers were being answered, to a fire, an attack on my life, to writing novels, a tick in a treadmill, and a wolf inviting me to be in his pack. And yes, licking my teeth. What an adventure life is, right? I feel like I strive all the time, but I feel like I'm thriving for one reason. It has nothing to do with money. It has to do with the fact that I choose today with a view of tomorrow. I choose good health. I choose joy, and I choose to serve others. I may have done that before all this accident happened, but I certainly was given a detour that made me say, hey, check yourself. You got another space in front of you and you better walk it. So it was hard for me, but I finally embraced what happened to me. I'm very different than I was, but I'm the new improved version of L.A. Dawson. I hope I am anyway. And I really hope that my journey has inspired you in some way and maybe even lit a fire under you. You know, walk through and push through your boundaries and your borders and whatever you're thinking that you're not good enough, those thoughts that tell you you shouldn't go forward and reach out and try. I know you're going to fall down, literally or figuratively, because we all do. I had both. And I know you're probably going to cry. And for 5 years, I could not cry. I'm still not supposed to cry. Too much damage to the eyes is done by caustic tears. So that's why I learned the native flute, to put all the pain that was in my body and the sadness to come out of that flute, that native flute. But if you do cry, and if you do fall, I want you to get up. And I'm asking you this from my heart. Try not to look in that rearview mirror anymore, because it does you no good. I want you to be the warrior that you were born to be. And I don't want you to live another moment without hope, because it's there for you. You just have to reach out and receive it. And I know you could give up. I gave up. And I know you could lose health. I lost hope. And if you do, I want you to remember these feathers that were in my blood, because this is your representation of hope. I mean, this is an angelic creature, an angelic being who came to save me on that day and left something for me to know that it was real, to know that it happened. It's not about me. It's not about you. It's about us. Because what we can do together is so much greater than you and I could do alone. And I'm just thrilled to be here sharing this with you and hoping that it resonated somewhere with someone. And I will take any questions that you have. I'd love to. Back to you, Veronica.
Back to us. Yay! Thank you. Give it up for LA. I love it. That was amazing.
Did you hear this? It fell off my hand and was bouncing on the floor of my bracelet.
I did not hear that.
Oh, that's good.
Can you fix it?
I don't know. It's no worries. You know, things break for a reason.
I mean, that's true, but it's pretty. I like it. So
it's protection, and it broke. What does that tell you? Didn't need protection.
Perspective. Yes, girl. I love it. That is incredible. And now you can use it for art for something else. That's what I do with things that break. I'm like, we're repurposing it.
Or my friend designs medicine bags, and that would be a nice addition on her medicine bags. I'll send it to her. Yeah.
Nice. My earrings actually are repurposed. They were different, 3 different kinds of earrings. And then my friend just put them together.
Those are fun.
Right? I know.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're feathers.
I love, I'm into, and this is in the shape of a feather.
Uh-huh.
First, I got this from her. And look, you're probably not supposed to wear all this stuff together, but that's who I am.
I think more is awesome. You do you. That is I'm like, if I want blue hair and feather earrings and all the, and like crazy nails. That works for me. If it doesn't work for you, then don't do it.
Yeah. I thought that was your hair when I first saw it, and I go, oh, I love that. I love it if it's feathers or your hair.
These ones?
The other day when you wear those long feathers.
My big feathers, yeah. I know. A lot of people, well, truth be told, when I go to the hair salon and I get them to put in the color, I'm like, it has to match these earrings. Because the feather earrings, they're a staple in my wardrobe. So
they are.
The hair has to match it.
Mine too, but it's a different color hair we're doing here.
It's all good. This is awesome, guys. We are going to enter into Q&A time, so please put your questions in the chat, and that's what we're gonna do now. I have a bunch of questions to ask you, and so I'm so grateful that you shared with us, and I shared your heart and your experience, and you've been through a lot. One of the reasons I had you, but also your spirit. I need spirit people who, not have just been through the stuff, but have like seen their purpose and the drive through it, which I so appreciate. There's so many little golden nuggets that you dropped, and I want to speak to a few of them. I'm curious though, for you, what is thriving now? What does that look like?
Thriving now is getting my programs going and knowing that, because for 8 years, when you say Lyme disease on a medical thing in the United States, it's like, is that a real illness? There's still some doctors that believe it's like it doesn't exist. So I don't know how this happened, but a lot of the things were not covered. So my goal is, okay, let's do that. I mean, this is a real necessity, right? We can't live on water. So that would be part of it. But it's not the biggest part of it. The biggest part of it is just my perspective went from what am I going to do to I can do this. And that took a long time, because a lot of things happen. If I tell you, if I stood, like I used to start my presentations with, I want you to guess what happened to me. And I start listing, and there's so many things from here up that happened that are so different now, and speaking and coughing, and sometimes I lose my voice and I slur my words at night and I haven't had anything to drink. I mean, just saying, screw it, it's me. And wearing my regular hair.
I love it.
I mean, it is. I like play hair because that's my personality. But this is who I am. This is what happened. This is it, and it's okay.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Thriving. You do have to earn a living, and we all are doing that. Yeah. But the heart and soul stuff is really going to make all that happen, isn't it? Because if you don't have that here, you're not going to have it out there.
Right? Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's so easy to focus because we do the comparison thing, and we like look at other people and what they're doing and how much they're achieving, and so we then think that's success, that's thriving. I've got to emulate that, and we actually neglect taking care of us and recognizing that that's actually what's going to get us where we want to go, is starting from the inside and going outward.
It's really true. I had a friend who called me. Intuitively, he called me as one of my sound healer people that does the Tibetan bowl. And I had such success with that, with pain in my body. And he calls me and he says, well, are you all right? And I just had this set of circumstances happen. And he said to me, look, you're out on Facebook, you're happy, you're spirited, you're joyful, and you're putting out all that energy. Now, what are you doing for inside here? And I slowed right down. I said, you are so right.
Yeah.
So I did. I slowed down.
Yeah.
I started laying on my deck and meditating for hours. I played the flute. I went on walks with my dogs. I rode my bike more. I took the dogs on car rides. Yeah, I'm a nut. But I feel more normal now. You know, this is not a normal feeling time.
Right? Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's what I do.
So that leads to Janet's question. She asked, do you have a special morning practice?
Oh, I do. I have like a special day practice. It's called My Miracle Day, but in the morning, because I have 4 dogs, you know, it starts that way. We wake up sometime between 5:30 and say 7:15. And we get up, and first thing we do is I take 3 out because my 2 boys don't get along. I walk the dogs. And while I'm walking the dogs, I'm doing kind of a gratitude thing, you know, thank you that I'm here, that I can breathe. Thank you that some of the fear has left me. Thank you that I found a community of souls. Thank you that I don't care how my hair looks anymore. Like, that's real.
Right? Yes.
That is so real. I mean, you have no idea. For 6 months after I was reconstructive, I couldn't look in the mirror, and I looked almost identical to who I did before, except the nose. My face shape changed a little bit. I don't know why that is. It's probably settling. Who knows? It's like a building. It settles in. You know, who knows? But back to the morning practice, you know, and then I read, and that's how I got started with this, with the Amy Purdy book. You know, I read, yeah, and I might be sitting in a car by the park. I might be sitting on the grass. I might be sitting in the on my deck. I let it flow. And there's some silence in it. When I first walk the dogs, it's pure silence. Because I noticed too with them, they like the silence because energetically during this pandemic, they're nervous. They can sense it. I'm sure some of it's for me, of course, but the other part is what's going on in the neighborhood. So the silence is really powerful.
It's huge. And just slowing down. I have a friend, and she's a retired lawyer. She lives in the city. She is like go, go, go all the time, right? And that is the opposite of me. And so I was visiting her and staying with her for a few days, and we go for a walk. She wants to show me. She just moved. She wants me to show me the new neighborhood and whatnot. And we leave the apartment and her condo, and all of a sudden she just starts like booking it down the street. And so I smoothly just grab her elbow, like her arm, right? Link arms, right? Didn't say anything. She knows I have a disability. She forgot that means I can't walk fast. And I link arms, and I just start walking at my pace, and I'm like holding her back at my pace, and she goes, and so we're like, we walk for maybe 15, 20 seconds, and she looks at me and she goes, you can see a lot more of the world when you go this slow. Like, there's a lot to look at. I never noticed that tree over there. We live in such a fast world, such a noisy world, right?
And it's got noisier, right? With all the Zooms, with all the information, with do it this way, you'll feel better if you do it my way.
Right.
And we have to be careful as coaches not to do that out into the universe. And we have to do that to ourselves, and we don't receive that from people.
Right. Absolutely.
You can politely say, enough is enough. You know, you've asked me 3 times, and I respectfully decline your offer.
Yeah.
Go away.
Please just leave me alone.
Can you just stop already?
Right?
Oh my goodness, yes.
And then you have to block them.
You have to do something.
Yeah. So Crystal asked, my dear friend Crystal, who keeps showing up. She's amazing.
She is amazing.
So she said, you mentioned writing books. What are some of the books that you've written?
Okay, so I have 15 novels written.
It's a lot.
It is a lot. I worked so hard. I really was like serious when I made that declaration. So let's see, 4 or 5 are completely finished. 3 of them are like halfway finished, and some of them are like 25, 35 pages. Now, the reason why they're not completely finished is because I was getting interest. And when you get interest, they'll take a paragraph if they like you. Go to the book, you know, and then they give you a special editor and everything. I didn't get to that point, and then I got hurt.
Right.
So there's one book that I'm published for, and it's called Waiting Online for Love. It's a little 80-page book on how to find love online. And you know what? I'm single, so I don't know what to tell you with that one. So
are you not listening to your own advice?
And yeah, well, I don't know. I don't know. Here's the thing about Waiting Online for Love, right? The book that I wrote. I think it's a good GPS to finding love online if you want to do online dating. Yeah. But I'm 64 years old. I'm not 20. And there are not a lot of, you know, people who have taken care of themselves at 64.
Yes.
And understand, you know, like the evolution of the human spirit.
Right.
So, and then I'm finding, like, they're at 60, they're saying, I don't know what I want. And I'm like, you know, what are you waiting for? You know?
Right. How do you not know?
How do you not know if you're 60 years old? So I got asked to do that book, and that was like a 50-50 deal. They did half, I did half. So I let that happen. That wouldn't have been something I would have chosen to write about. So my novels are not fluff. I'm considered women's contemporary, and they're international intrigue, children at risk, Native American themes. I'm trying to think of all the titles. Children at risk, international intrigue, espionage. Okay, and I'm not giving you titles on purpose because they're not published.
That's fair. That's fair. I think
because they will be.
They will be, and then Crystal will be in line because she is a reader. She likes reading.
So sorry, Crystal, I couldn't give you the names, but there's a lot.
You gave her one name.
Yeah.
So
Waiting Online for Love. It's still available if you want to buy it. You have to buy it directly from me. I took it off of Amazon because Amazon wasn't paying me. So
yeah. No, that's fair. Yeah.
It happens on Amazon a lot. So, you know, it's a good presence, but sometimes the paperwork gets confusing. So
it's funny. I was just gonna comment. My mother is 59. She'll be 60 this year, and is single and is like herself, very fit and likes to take care of her health and is active. She's climbing mountains all the time. We're surrounded by mountains, so she's got physical activity all the time. And she's like, these men, like these 60-year-old men online, it's like, what are they thinking? What's going on?
Veronica, you have to give me your address so I can mail a book copy to your mom. Just
I don't know if you're watching. Mom, if you're watching, comment, please.
Yeah, just for fun, so she can enjoy like the possibilities. And always remember when you read a book, somebody else's opinion is in there. Okay,
of course.
Because there's an editor saying, well, you have to include this, you have to include that. And editors sometimes read your words and they misinterpret it and they write something and you're like, where did I say that? And then you go, I never said that. But it's so perspective. In other words, they see your words and they interpret something else. And I looked at this one editor and I said, I don't understand what you're talking about. Well, he said, you said this. And I go, oh God, I did. But he took it in a totally different way. So that's why there's people kind of watching over you, you know?
My mother just said, hi there.
Hi there, Mary. How are you? Send me a book.
I love it. She's awesome. My she's the best.
Well, she'll appreciate it. She'll at least get a good giggle. It's only like 80 pages, but it's fun. But it's filled with, I'll tell you what it is filled with. What people call Alexisms. I would be around them and I'd say, blah, 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 whatever it was. And they'd go, oh my God, that's so good. Write it down. So I have these little boxes in that book. And that's the best part of that book is there are all these Alexisms about words of wisdom in this 8 years of, you know, hell and back that I went through. So that was, I said to them, I'll write this book about online dating, but you got to let me put my isms in there.
Yes. I love it. I
forgot. It's been a while since I talked about this book. So
that's great. Her and I talk about our like online dating woes and
Well, listen,
adventures.
I'll send you one too, so you can read it at the same time, and then you can have joint giggles.
I mean, I'm not online dating at the moment, and I don't know that she is, but
Do you want to laugh? Do you need to laugh?
We love to laugh.
Then
Absolutely.
You need a book.
Yes. That's so awesome. I love this.
I'll find it for you.
Yay. I love it.
And maybe, if we're lucky, after the pandemic, the three of us will not be single. And if we still are, we'll do a live with a glass of wine.
Then we'll just hang out, sip some wine. I mean,
read a page.
Yes, I'm in. I don't drink wine. I'll like have some Baileys. You know I like Baileys. I've already.
Oh, that's a problem. Wow.
What?
That could be, no, Baileys is good.
You guys can stick to your wine. You and Mary.
Okay, Mary.
You know. That's amazing. Oh, okay. We're getting. I love that. I was gonna say we're getting off topic, but really, this is life, and I'm all about it. This is part of thriving, right?
Well, it is, and I mean, you know, that actually was very much a part of my healing. Was writing that book and saying I'm dateable after my face was smashed and shattered and paralyzed and etc.
Yeah. But I think even just the idea, like humor.
Yeah.
Humor is so crucial. And
people, after this happened, Veronica, on Facebook, they sent me, and text messages, they sent me pictures of like somebody falling in the gym on their treadmill. And people would say, there'd be jokes all over Facebook at the time, you know, unless you fell off your treadmill. And one of my physical therapist says, my client, that's exactly what she did. And we had a big laugh about it. And the bigger laugh is that the treadmill wasn't on.
Okay, so just to like, you know, again, you and I, we're so similar and I love it.
You mean clumsy? Would you mean clumsy?
Sure. Yeah. I was going to let the viewers decide that for themselves.
Yeah.
Literally 2 days ago, my dishwasher, I went to close it. I went to get something out of it. I went to close it and then it didn't latch. So it opened behind, but I was like on my way passing and it opened. And then when I came out back into my kitchen, I don't even know what I was doing, but I was getting something out of the microwave and I backed into the door of the dishwasher. Long story short, I tripped on, I hit the dishwasher door that was open with the back of my leg and fell onto I broke my dishwasher door.
Oh God. I mean, at least there wasn't a knife there. I mean, seriously?
Right? It was just the door. So the dishwasher's broken. I'm a bit bruised, and unfortunately, all the chiropractic and trigger point injections I had on Thursday are kind of useless at this point, and I need more next week. But you gotta laugh at it, right?
You do. I mean, you're okay, so laugh. I mean, and when you get well, laugh if you're not, you know, but that was just a one thing. It wasn't like thank God, a bad thing.
Right? I mean, yeah, the arm, I'm a little bit concerned, but it's fine. It'll be okay. It hurts, but it's fine.
Oh God.
That's what all parents
prayer. Along with the book, I'll send a prayer.
Send me both.
I will send you both.
Yeah. So Crystal asked a question. She said, you mentioned being very intuitive. Have you always trusted your intuition, or have you had to find ways to grow in trusting what is being put on your spirit?
Always trusted. I mean, there was a time after the paralysis and accident that I didn't trust because my sympathetic system was always in fight or flight, and the next shoe would drop and I would just say, see, I'm not getting well. I can't get well. But I always knew, especially 6 months after when I was back writing novels, I knew that my body was healing itself. I suspected that there were a lot of layers to this, and it was a lot worse than it was, and it was a lot worse than the MRI showed. And I had been a dancer, a competitive ballroom dancer at the time, and I pulled myself out of competition because my body wasn't working, and I gave no explanation because I didn't have an explanation. But I knew I had a stellar immune system. I knew I had a stellar muscle memory. And that's where that's where I'm at now. Like when I had to go back to that PT, I had to trust my gut. When she finally got to me and it like really dropped into my spirit. On that half, yes, it was later. But most of my life, I have trust my gut because I had a mother who was like that. And intuition, if God makes you part Native American, he gives you that intuition. And that doesn't mean it's incongruent with Christianity. He just gives you a very keen intuition. And if you don't listen to it, you're a darn fool, because the opposite, something bad is going to happen to you if you don't listen to your intuition. As in the day, by the way, that the man tried to attack me, my mother told me, don't go into work today. I have a bad feeling. And I defied that. And I got beaten up. My ribs were broken. My ankle was broken. So.
Yeah, that's crazy. I think too. I definitely have that intuition thing, and I think it's hard because we always question ourselves, right? And we're always like, okay, was that God? If you believe in God, was that just like what I wanted to hear? Was that like, or was that like the voice of my mother telling, that like,
people have asked me, I'm sorry to interrupt, but this is really important. People ask me, they tell me about, like, they say these feathers, they're black, that's evil. The voice that you heard, you're going to die. It wasn't the devil or whatever you call what's evil telling me you're going to die. It was the reality of what I knew, what was happening. And it was my intuition saying, no, you got to claim your life. You got to demand it. And I mean, I was lying down, bleeding, holding my face on. And I said, this is so bad. I could die. And then I heard this loud voice, right? So like I had almost manifested that thought, but because I needed to say, no, this is mine and it's not my time. And you have to do something to stop this, because this is not how my kids are going to find me. So it's like it's all God, because he made you the way he made you. Your intuition is different from mine and to my intuition, but mine is very spirited. And like, for example, in part of my healing, I burned sage. Sage, forget the spiritual part. Sage cleanses the air. I had a lot of trouble breathing and I had a lot of anxiety. And if you put sage here, it helps with anxiety because it purifies the air and you're breathing better. Now, if you believe in the spiritual thing, it takes away negative energy. Same difference, isn't it? And it's scientifically proven. And it's just the spin that you put on it. But to me, God made the Native Americans. And most of them, in my tribe, most of them are Christian. They became Christian. And the Southwest tribes, they say they walked with Jesus for 50 years. So who knows? I don't know anything about that. I can't really speak about it, but this is who I am. I'm kind of a blend.
Yeah, I love it. Your blend is
perfect. He made me this way. He made me this blend, so he didn't make me wrong, right?
Amen. Yes, and I think that is the key in listening to that intuition. For a long time, I had an incredible mom, and you talked about not being able to advocate for yourself, right?
Right. I was too sick.
And so I as a kid, my mom was my advocate, and she was incredible. And she still likes to be my advocate, and I appreciate her. But as I became an adult and I was living on my own and I was going to she sometimes still comes to doctor's appointments because she likes to have information that I don't actually don't want, which is kind of interesting too, right? Because she likes the information, and I want just to like know minimal things about the details.
And that's part of everything I spoke about, right?
Yeah, but I think,
and you have her there to help you with that other half of the perspective. That's such a blessing.
So blessed. But it's been a journey in learning to trust my own intuition, because I got a lot of feels. I got a lot of thoughts and a lot of feels and a lot of all of that. And so coming to a place where I could advocate for myself, even in sickness, to say, like, I've been to the doctor where they're like, it's a bladder infection. Here's some antibiotics. For 3 years, that was what I was told, and I'd go to emergency room over and over and over. Turns out I had a bladder stone building up for 3 years that turned out to be the size of a pool ball, like a billiard ball. Right? But so,
you know your body.
Right? And so I think my advice to Crystal would be, like, just in learning to listen to that, who cares if you're wrong?
Yes.
Right? Like, go with what you think it is, what your gut is telling you. Because most of the time it's probably your gut. And if it's not, then, you know.
Especially if it's about yourself. Yeah. When you reach out about a gut with someone else, it can be problematic only if you say something that's wrong. And I'm very careful with that. The only thing I say to my friends is, if I tell you don't get on a plane, don't get on a plane. And I've never told anybody that. But one time I had a thought not to get on a plane, and I didn't get on the plane, and nothing happened. But I believe energetically, if you're on the plane, it changes the whole, right?
Yep.
The whole energy of things. And I don't know. So I just say, my gut said, you don't get on the plane. So I didn't.
Yeah.
So I didn't get on the plane. And I don't like to fly anyway, but I'll get in a plane. I'll get in a plane. Not now.
Yeah, we can't right now. Yeah. And I'm kind of okay with that.
I'm okay. I'm okay.
So Crystal's follow-up question is, how did you heal your nervous system after the accident?
So a lot of it was holistic because all the medical stuff was done. But my physical therapy therapist introduced me to a book from a South African PhD doctor who worked on the neuroscience of pain. And the wolf whole thing comes in here. But they use lions because they're in South Africa. And the risk of you walking down the street and maybe a lion escaping or getting close to you, it's like a reality in South Africa. So he said, if this lion came up to you and scared you, what would be your reactions? It would be, right? It would be, oh my God, you'd be scared. But if you take that vision of that lion and make it into a little lion cub, and you imagine petting it. Now, lions don't resonate with me. I would have more fear with lions. So I made it a wolf.
Sure.
So when I would get bad pain, I would imagine it was a wolf, and then I would imagine a wolf cub laying on my neck, and I'd say, Shiloh, because I named it Shiloh. Shiloh, please get off my neck and come in my lap and let me pet you. And just the silliness of telling an imaginary wolf that used to be big and is now small on your lap, that you wanted it on your lap, you would laugh, and that would dispel, it would just get rid of the pain. Yeah. And I practiced, that was one thing. I did visualizations, I did affirmations, and I told my body to get in line with what my brain was thinking. And my brain was thinking that I was in perfect health, not that I had been healed. Because when you say you are healed, you're implying you were sick. And I was refusing that.
That's
I was perfect health, not healed, perfect health. And I always say, thank you, Father, for remaking me after all this happened to me, better than I was when you first created me, because you have a bigger purpose for me now. That's what I said.
Yes.
That's what I said.
I love that it was like a renovation, not a reconstruction.
Yeah, it's a renovation of my face. People laugh when I say that, but
I love it.
So freaking scary, because this doctor, I had a very native bumpy nose. It had been broken 8 times because I was an athlete. I played field hockey, lacrosse. I was a competitive ballroom dancer in my teens, and then again in my 50s. And it's dangerous when you're doing performances where a guy is holding you up here and he doesn't know what he's doing and he drops you. There's something you have to do with your core and he has to do to hold you. And I got dropped, I got ribs broken, but my nose, it was so fragile, it broke so many times. So when I hit the treadmill, I mean, it just exploded. So, but before then, he helped me write a novel and let me watch the woman having reconstruction who agreed to it. I had to sign off and do all that, go into the operating room. Yeah. And because he did that, he said, let me take your pictures. I just don't like the inside of your nose, the way it looks, you know. And long story short, if he had not taken those pictures, we wouldn't have known exactly how badly paralyzed I was. Wow. And after he did the reconstruction, a year later, they had to lift my neck because I couldn't swallow. The muscles were still stuck. They did something like this. And a year later, the neck fell because I was still paralyzed. But we couldn't tell. And it's a minimal paralysis, and sometimes it comes and goes, and it still is, you know, every once in a while I'll feel it. And 2 years ago, my whole nose went numb, and they just checked it. They did an MRI. Everything was fine. So now I just it is. It just is.
Yeah. That's amazing. I love it. I love that perspective. You also mentioned survivor's guilt.
Yes.
And it's interesting. I was actually talking with Jonathan and Jana yesterday, my speaker yesterday, about that. And I think I think a lot of us carry that and don't recognize it.
Right? It's a very, well, imagine a whole campus of kids. And this was combated at my school, we had an unusual group of people. It was like the first couple of years that Skidmore went co-ed. But we were attracting all these princesses and princes from the Middle East. We had actresses there, actresses' daughters there. It was an unusual year. They hadn't really had years like that before, but it somehow fit into, you know, all their categories. I don't know what they were looking for, but this was a weird year because there was an actress who was in the dorm where the fire was, actress daughters, a famous actress daughters. And that's what the news focused on, and not that we lost this beautiful soul. And so we all felt bad about that as well.
Right.
We all felt bad about that. So, but imagine 18 to 22-year-olds all walking around, and everybody was walking around kind of catatonic. It was very scary. Yeah. But then, as I said, I had this great group of kids that we realized, well, we're okay for a reason. I mean, it's horrific. And there were people who had, you know, this is back in the 70s where the curtains were fiberglass and they were burning people's throats. Right. And like all the carpeting laws had to be changed. And there was a lot of damage because of that. So yeah. We had people walking wounded around all the time. And I'm not even talking about the survivor's guilt. I'm talking about the actual people that suffered.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think I've definitely dealt with survivor's guilt with the loss of my dad years back when it first happened. And I think that there's something to be said, not even like as a survivor, like for you, it was like, it could have actually been you, right? Like you, whereas I think even just in losing someone, there's this,
that's enough.
There can be this like, well, why, like for me, my narrative was my dad was incredible. He was a world changer. He impacted the world in such a beautiful way and had such a life, so much more life to live, in my opinion, that I was like, why would you take him? Take me instead.
Yeah.
And that was my
careful with that.
But that was my prayer for 2 years before he died, was like, I didn't feel like I was doing, that I had a bit as big of a purpose as he did. And he was just such an inspiration to me that I was like, take me instead. Right. And I recognize now, obviously, that as you said, like, I'm here for a reason.
There's a path. That was part of your path.
Right.
To help you clarify, right?
Yeah. And I think it was like a wake-up call of like, no, you're here for a reason. Like you have a path to walk. You have a journey. You have people to impact that you will impact if you choose to. And so to like switch that and to recognize that my mom's making awesome comments.
She's right. I was just going to say the same thing. I mean, how do you think you ended up here? I mean,
right?
yeah.
Thank you, Mom. I'm not gonna cry. I did that yesterday. I'm not doing it again today. So, but there's something in that we recognize, and this is what this whole challenge is. And I will say, my dad was an inspiration in me doing it. Is that he lived every moment with purpose, whatever his circumstance was, right? Whether that was he was getting chemo in the hospital. I remember those moments, and I remember having breakfast with him in bed in our PJs when I was a little kid, that we were like still living in the moment. And it was, those are some of my favorite memories. And I think that if we can be purposeful in recognizing, I woke up today, there's a reason for that, and I want to make the most out of this day.
And the most out of that can be the self-care that's necessary and the extra self-care that's necessary now. And I packed so much into my morning today, you know, the car ride, the bike ride, the 40-minute walk with the dogs, and then coming back and saying, oh, don't forget, you got to eat, because I can forget to eat. It's a big problem. And I'm isolating by myself, so it's like cooking, eating by yourself. It's like boring. So I packed all that into the day, and I said, well, I can't wait to do this thing with Veronica, but when I'm done with that gig, I'm just going to be.
Yes.
I'm just going to be. Now, you know, nothing is by accident with me, okay? Everything I have on here today is for healing and calming. I have, this is turquoise. Turquoise and copper is for healing. Veracite, chrysocolla, and tiger's eye, and a lot of tiger's eye that fell, okay, which is so interesting. And this makes me feel good. These were made by a person that designed some of my stuff for me in the shape of a feather. Everything for me is, I pick my jewelry before, because it's always some kind of semi-precious stone. This is Japanese or Chinese turquoise. And it's always that first, and that determines my mood, my feel that I need healing. Do I need a little protection? And by protection, you know, I mean, stones do have power. It's not the same as praying to God and things like that, but they do resonate at certain vibrations. And this resonates at a person that's healing, that's healed. And they've measured this scientifically. It's not woo-ha, and it's not a substitute for God. It's just a holistic modality that makes you feel good.
I love it.
If you feel good, what happens? You heal, right?
Yeah. That's why I wear earrings every day. That's part of my morning practice, is like, what mood am I in? What mood am I in? Who are the people I'm going to see? I put my feathers on for you, girl. Right? Because it does. It builds a connection, and like, it's the small little details in your day that I think can make, we all look at the big stuff and we're like, what did I accomplish today? But it's that slowing down, giving yourself self-care and going, okay, I had a really busy morning, and then I'm going to take, I'm going to take a break, and this is going to be, I'm just going to chill. Right.
And when you're chilling, you're dispelling and getting rid of some of the fear, because we all have had fear in this thing. And I'm in a really bad area in the United States.
Yeah.
And, you know, I drove by one of the places where I take my dogs all the way to this little lake community. And I noticed at the firehouse, there was all this man's equipment and a flag at half mast. And there's been regular deaths are happening, regular life is happening.
Yeah.
But this was a 60-year-old man who died of COVID like a week, 2 weeks ago. And it makes you go, okay. And I say a prayer and I think, okay, please God, pray for the world with us, heal the people with us, because it's going to take all of us together.
Yeah.
To get this planet healed.
Yeah.
And now.
Yeah. So you also mentioned, so speaking to that and speaking to self-care just on a regular basis, I'm curious too, you mentioned that you've got the 3 death anniversaries in August. Girl, yeah, I got my dad's birthday, his anniversary of his death, and Father's Day are all in 2 months. It's a
So you
lot.
get it.
I was like, girl, yeah.
It's a lot. So my brother was my best friend, and he had
Mhm.
diabetes, and he shouldn't have died when he did, but he never took care of himself. And you know, if you don't take care of yourself, it's insidious. You know, it can. It doesn't have to, but it can, and it did for him. And the worst part was telling my family because they had lost a daughter before my brother died. So that was their second child that they lost. And I was the daughter that replaced the daughter that died. I mean, you know, not really.
Yeah.
But my mom talked to me about this little girl a lot because it was 1945 and they told her, don't touch her. Don't hold her. Don't get connected to her because she's going to die. And she listened, and it was the greatest mistake of her life. And she named her a name that she didn't like. They told her to do that.
What?
And the doctors even asked my dad, do you want your wife to live or the baby to live? Well, first of all, the baby wasn't going to live.
Right.
So it was just like an awful set of circumstances that she lived with. And so when I had to tell her that, that was the impact that I was thinking. I'm like telling her her second child has died. So meanwhile, I don't even recognize I'm the person that has lost a sister that I never met. I'm the person that lost her best friend. And my dad, who was the greatest man, my dad and my brother received so many honors in so many different groups after they died that we had to call up these places and say no more. It went on for 2 years. And we said, we can't, no more, no more, no more. We cannot grieve this hard for 24/7 for so many years. And it's hard. But now my perspective is let's celebrate my relationship with them.
Yeah.
Let's celebrate the memories. And look, I'm talking to you and I'm tearing up. But what can you do?
Yeah.
In one of my novels, there is a scene of this woman in the cemetery and her whole family is around her. And it's from me, what I did. The day that my dad died, we bought 3 headstones. My mother forgot to put a headstone where her daughter was buried. We got my brothers and my sister-in-law was involved in that. And then we got my sisters. And they told me that they took me aside and said they didn't know where my sister was. And they said, we think she's here. I go, you think she's here? I mean, come on, she's got to be there. And if she isn't, I don't know what to say, but just put a stone down so my mom's okay. And so we put a stone down with her name between my grandparents. And I went there one day. And in the Rise Up Challenge, we had this homework, go to a cemetery and what's going to be on your dad. I couldn't get to the cemetery that day. And I was blessed that I couldn't get to that cemetery because when I go and I see that, I can go back to that day because during that time, I wasn't allowed to grieve. Now, since then I have. Yeah. But that's just a moment in time that's wow.
So what's your self-care in that month, in those times? Because you've got self-care that is like a constant, but in those moments where you know this hurts.
Well, first of all, I have a talk with myself the minute I feel it coming on and I say, gentle time. Yeah. If you can't work today, you can't work today.
Yeah.
If you need to work today, you need to work today. Like I allow dropping rings left and right. I allow my body to speak to me and I allow it to tell me what I need to do. And I don't argue with it so much and try to push through it.
Yeah.
And it's the meditation and the prayer thing for me that really gets me there. Yeah. A couple of weeks ago, I had really bad anxiety and I just laid on my deck in the sun and did some meditation with these Native American, they're called mochi balls, and they're supposed to help with it. And I just did this anxiety thing. And it's really interesting. It has helped so much when you practice systemic breathing or calm down the systemic nervous system breathing, and you keep doing it. You know what? You start to breathe in a better way. Yeah. And I thought that stuff was BS, to be honest with you. And I've been doing this stuff my whole life. Yeah. And I still thought it was. And then I started doing it, and it's not.
That's awesome. I'm glad
it's just not. Yeah. And that has helped me to let go of the fear of this coronavirus stuff.
Right? Yeah, that's huge. That's
I'm not
huge.
saying I'm going food shopping anytime soon. I'm
I
still going to order my food.
That's awesome. We don't have that option right now, but
Yes.
where I live. But yeah, okay. I'm cognizant of the time for you and for those listening, and I appreciate you guys and your questions. I have
Thank
one more
you.
question for you,
Yes.
and then we'll wrap this up. So I've asked my speakers at the end of your life, whenever that is, and this is similar to the rise up thing that you mentioned. Uh, I want to know what is that legacy, that message that you want to leave behind? That at your funeral, what is it you want, the message you want people to say about you?
She always led with love. Now, I cry when I say that because one of my first real deep memories of my mom was I was standing behind in the pantry with a little girl apron on because I like to look like my mom and cook with her. And I heard my mom say to her friend, Lexi's all about love. I've never met anybody like her. And she's a little child. And I thought, that must be a good thing. I don't know if I perfected it on purpose or tried to be there or it was just there, but she led with love. If she told you she loved you, you could take it to the bank.
Yeah.
She would try never to hurt you, but recognize that she probably did somewhere, sometime. And that I believe my novels are going to be published. And when people open them up, they look at them, and especially my kids, they say, that's my mom. And they're not embarrassed about it. And I write responsibly. There are some tough things. I write about war, and what happens in war camps and stuff. And there's some tough things. But I never give anybody a recipe to do wrong. I really write responsibly. And in fact, I got criticized from some agents because of that. But you can't have happy endings because they won't sell. But you can be responsible with how you write. And so I want people to look at it and say, you could see that, yet we're taking on the adventure that she meant us to be on.
I absolutely love it. And you've just inspired the climbing the mountain homework that I'm going to talk about in a second.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yes.
Thank you so much. This is incredible. If you want to just hang out with me for a minute as I close us out today, I'd appreciate that. So, guys, give it up for LA Dawson in the comments. This was incredible. If you're watching the replay, please, I'm going to ask you, LA, if for those in the replay that are watching, if you've got questions for LA that we didn't answer today, please just put those in the comments. And if you can go back in the next couple of days and just comment on people, feel free to comment on things that people said today. And if there's anything else you want to add to maybe what you spoke about, feel free to do that. And so for those of you watching the replay, she will be looking at your comments. And thank you. This was incredible.
Thank you for having me.
This is happy to. Anytime. You're on my list now. Anytime I do anything, I'm like, LA's coming. So
anytime I'll be here.
Thanks to Janet for connecting us.
Yes, thank you, Janet.
Hey, Janet. So yeah, if you are new, please post either a video, a 2-minute intro video, or a write-up, just a little paragraph. Tell us who you are. Tell us what brought you to this group, what you're excited to do in this group, where you are at in thriving versus surviving. Where are you on that journey? And we want to get to know you. We are a community of support and love and joy and dancing. And so please put in, if you're new, put in your video or just do a little write-up. Tell us who you are. I read all of them. I watch all of them. And I've loved the participation in this group. So thank you for that. Also, please go ahead and invite your friends. If you haven't already, or if you're new in this group, please invite people. we're almost at 550 people. So excited that get to hear these messages, and they're so powerful. And I'm so grateful for the opportunity to talk with each of you and to just share these powerful stories of encouragement and strength and love. And so we want to keep expanding this community. So please share the love, invite your friends to this. I want to see this movement keep growing. So we still have we've been in this for a couple weeks. You can, if you're new, you can go back and watch the previous days, participate in the exercises. We want to see all of it. So that is that. So you're climbing the mountain exercise for today. You will see the post topic climbing the mountain. Every day after the speakers speak, I will give you an exercise that I would love you to do, whether you do it in a video post or in a written post. Today's exercise is kind of a two-parter, actually. Again, we're in this isolation thing. We're all in it. We're all being affected, and we all have different family situations and dynamics. So I would love for you to love on somebody. Connect with someone today that you love, whether that's somebody that's in your house or it's family that's far away, a friend that you haven't talked to that you know is struggling, that needs some encouragement. Just go love on somebody today, and then come back to this group and just share that with us in a quick either video. Tell us who it was, and just share that experience with us, whether it's in a video or just write a little post about that. So that's your climbing the mountain exercise. Thank you guys so much for being here. We will see you tomorrow, and go thrive.